Listen to me very closely. You're not stuck because you're weak. You're not behind because you're lazy. You're not losing because you're unlucky. You are not where you want to be because you lack clarity. Clarity is power. Clarity is direction. Clarity is the difference between wandering and winning. Some of you wake up every morning with energy, but no aim. You hustle hard, but you don't even know what the finish line looks like. You're running, but you're running in circles. And the reason your life feels heavy is because you're carrying too many possibilities and not enough decisions. Let me be real with you. You can't hit a target you can't see. You can't chase a dream you haven't defined. You can't build a future you haven't pictured. You keep saying, I want to succeed. I want to change my life. I want to be great. But the question is, great at what? Success in what? Change how? You're frustrated because you haven't made the vision visible. You haven't written it. You haven't owned it. You haven't committed to it. Clarity is committing to a direction even when you don't know every step. Clarity is planting your flag and spanking your flag and saying, this is who I'm becoming. This is where I'm going. This is the standard. When you lack clarity, everything distracts you. People distract you. Opportunities distract you. Your emotions distract you. Your past distracts you. But when you have clarity, nothing stops you. Nothing confuses you. Nothing shakes you. Clarity makes the yes powerful and the no easy. Clarity makes your discipline stronger than your feeling. Clarity makes you unbothered by opinions because you already know what you're building. Hear me, you're not behind. You're not broken. You're not lost. You just haven't decided who you want to be. The moment you get clear, the moment you define the target, the moment you decide the mission, your power comes back. Your confidence comes back. Your fire comes back. Get clear. Get focused. Get intentional. Your future is waiting for you to stop being vague and start being specific because you are not where you want to be. Not because you can't get there, but because you haven't named where. Clarity creates confidence, and most people don't even understand what that really means because they've been living their whole life thinking confidence comes from talent, from being born into the right family or having the right opportunities. But listen to me very carefully. Confidence is not something you get from the outside. Confidence is something that grows on the inside when your direction becomes undeniable, when your purpose becomes visible, when you know exactly why you wake up in the morning and exactly what you are working toward. Confidence is clarity. Clarity is confidence. They are inseparable. You've been trying to feel confident, but you haven't yet gotten clear on what you're aiming at. And when you don't have clarity, you question everything. You question your choices. You question your goals. You question your abilities. You question whether you're even doing the right thing. And that constant questioning destroys your spirit. It makes you hesitate. It makes you hesitate. It makes you doubt yourself. And hesitation is the enemy of confidence. Doubt is the assassin of greatness. You can't move boldly when you don't know where you're moving. You can't act with conviction when you haven't made the decision that this is exactly what you want for your life. Let me break it down for you in a way that's simple. Think about a GPS. When you put in the destination, the map appears. The route appears. The estimated time appears. The confidence appears. You don't sit there confused. You don't sit there stressed. You don't say, I don't know which road to take. Or you just start driving because you know the system is guiding you. Well, what if you open the GPS and didn't put a destination? What if you just stared at the empty map? What if all it showed was a blue circle representing where you are right now? You'll be stuck. You'll be still. Not because you can't drive. Not because the car's broken. Not because the roads aren't available. You'll be stuck because without a destination, you don't have direction. And without direction, you don't have movement. And without movement, you don't have confidence. Your life is the same way. Your potential is sitting there like a fully functional vehicle. But because you haven't typed in your destination, you don't drive. You've got horsepower, but no purpose. You got energy, but no aim. You got passion, but no plan. And that's why you don't feel confident, not because you're incapable, but because you're unclear. Clarity creates confidence because when you finally decide what you want, your mind stops arguing with itself. Your emotions stop pulling you in different directions. Your energy stops being scattered across 20 ideas, 50 possibilities, and 100 distractions. You stop being overwhelmed by what you could do and you start focusing on what you will do. Clarity is like light. When you focus it, it becomes powerful. That's how a magnifying glass can burn through paper because the light is concentrated. Your life is the same. When your purpose is concentrated, you burn through obstacles. You push through fear. You destroy doubt. You start walking with your chest up, your head high, your voice stronger because you're no longer moving randomly. You're moving intentionally. People with clarity walk differently. They talk differently. They talk differently. They don't apologize for their goals. They don't whisper their dreams. They don't second guess every decision. They say, oh, this is where I'm going, and everything they do aligns with that mission. Even their bad days are powerful because clarity turns setbacks into strategy. When you know your destination, a detour doesn't shake you. You don't freak out when the route changes because you know the direction hasn't changed. You may go left instead of right. You may slow down for a moment, you may reroute, but you never lose the overall focus. That's confidence. The unwavering belief that no matter how long it takes, you are still on your way. Confidence doesn't come from everything going right. Confidence comes from knowing exactly where you're headed, even when things go wrong. Clarity gives you the ability to say no, not out of fear, but out of strength. When you lack clarity, you say yes to everything because you're afraid to miss out. You say yes to people's demands. You say yes to distractions. You say yes to opportunities that have nothing to do with your purpose. You say yes to anything that gives temporary satisfaction because you don't have a long-term vision to protect. But when you have clarity, you say no not because you're rejecting the world, but because you're protecting your mission. You don't have time for drama, for nonsense, for negativity. You don't entertain energy that doesn't match your direction. You don't get pulled into every battle because you understand every battle isn't yours. You don't get caught up trying to impress people because you already know what you're building. Clarity makes you know a weapon. Clarity gives you the courage to walk away from things that don't grow you. Clarity creates confidence because it gives you permission to be fully you. When you know who you are and where you're going, you stop comparing yourself to everybody else. You stop measuring your progress against someone else's timeline. You stop doubting your abilities because you're too busy developing them. Clarity frees you from competing with people who aren't even running the same race. A runner doesn't look at the swimmer. A swimmer doesn't look at the cyclist. They each have their lane. They each have their direction. They each have their finish line. And that's where their confidence comes from. They're clear on which lane is theirs. Let me be real with you. Confidence becomes natural when you stop living by accident and start living by intention. You don't stumble into success. You choose it. You plan it. You commit to it. You work for it. Confidence comes from waking up every day knowing exactly what your actions are contributing to. When you lack clarity, your actions feel meaningless. You feel like you're doing a lot, but accomplishing nothing. You feel tired, but not fulfilled. Busy, but not effective. Active, but not progressing. And that drains your confidence. But when you have clarity, every small win feels meaningful. Every step forward feels like purpose. Every day feels like progress because you're moving in alignment with your direction. Confidence grows when you stop questioning your path and start trusting in your path and stop trusting it. You don't need the whole staircase to have confidence. You just need the next step. Clarity gives you that next step. You might not know every detail of the journey, but when the destination is clear, the next step always becomes visible. You start to trust yourself more. You start to trust your decisions more. You start to trust your instincts more. You stop living in fear of making the wrong choice because clarity gives you something to measure everything against. If it moves you closer, it's right. If it moves you farther, it's wrong. That's confidence, not knowing everything, but knowing enough. Clarity creates confidence because it gives your mind peace. Unclear goals create mental chaos. You lie awake at night thinking about 1,000 possibilities because you haven't committed to one. You feel anxious because your mind has no direction. But the moment you get clear, truly clear, your mind calms down. The chaos fades. The noise quiets. You start operating with precision. Your thoughts line up. Your emotions align. Your energy rises. Peace is not the absence of problems. Peace is the presence of clarity. And let me tell you something even deeper. Clarity gives you a sole permission to go all in. People don't lack effort. They lack clarity. That's why they never commit at 100%. You can't give your whole heart to something you're not sure about. You can't give your full energy to something that doesn't have a defined future. But when you get clear, your heart invests, your mind commits, your spirit locks in. And when all three align, confidence becomes natural. You walk into rooms with intention. You speak with certainty. You move with purpose. You stop waiting for permission and start creating opportunity. Clarity is the beginning of confidence. Clarity is the birth of confidence. Clarity is the foundation of confidence. Your confidence. The day you get clear is the day you get powerful. The moment you define your direction, your doubt dies. And the moment your doubt dies, your confidence is born. Because clarity creates confidence from the inside out, from the heart outward, from the vision forward. And once you taste the confidence that comes from clarity, you'll never go back to living blind again. A vague goal produces vague results. And the truth is, most people spend their entire lives wondering why nothing ever changes, why their progress feels slow, why their results feel inconsistent, why their effort doesn't match the outcome they want. And the answer is simpler than they think. It's not that they're incapable, and it's not that they're not gifted. It's not even that they don't work hard. Many people with vague goals are some of the hardest working people you'll ever see, but hard work without direction is like running on a treadmill. You're moving, you're sweating, you're exhausted, but you're not going anywhere. Hard work only pays off when it is attached to a target, a mission, something concrete, something measurable. When a goal is vague, the results will always be just as vague. You can't expect precision from a blurry vision. You can't expect transformation from a confused intention. You can't expect consistency when you haven't even defined what consistency looks like for you. And yet, people wake up every single day saying things like, I want to get better. I want to be successful. I want to change my life. But none of those sentences tell you what a better means, what successful looks like, or what part of your life needs to change. Vague statements sound good, but they don't give your brain anything to work with. Your mind doesn't know how to build something you haven't defined. Your effort doesn't know where to go if the target hasn't been named. When the goal is vague, your energy leaks. You pour your effort into random directions. You start things you don't finish. You chase ideas you don't really want. You invest time into tasks that don't move you forward. You get excited for a moment, then burn out quickly. You compare yourself to others because you haven't chosen your lane. You feel lost because you haven't created a map. You feel behind because you never decided what being ahead even means. Vague goals drain your confidence because you don't know how to measure progress. If you can't tell whether you're winning or losing, eventually you feel like you're losing even when you're not. A vague goal is like telling someone you want to travel the world, but never picking a country, a date, or a flight. You talk about it for years, but you never pack a bag, never buy a ticket, never leave home, because talking about a destination is not the same as choosing one. And this is what many people do with their dreams. They fantasize, they envision, they hope, they wish, but they never define. They never commit. They never choose the one thing they're willing to pour their whole self into. When you don't pick a direction, every direction seems possible. That might sound exciting, but it's actually paralyzing. Too many possibilities create confusion, and confusion kills action. When your goal is vague, you procrastinate not because you're lazy, but because your brain has nothing clear to attack. You delay because you don't know what it done looks like. You hesitate because the path isn't mapped. You feel overwhelmed because your goal isn't broken down. The human mind needs specificity. It needs clarity. It needs to see a finish line, even if it changes later. You can adjust a clear goal, but you can't adjust a vague one. You can refine a defined mission, but you can't refine a dream that's still floating in your imagination. Think about athletes. Think about champions. Think about the people who dominated their craft. They don't say, want to be better. They say, I will reduce my mile time from 6 minutes to 5:30. They don't say, I want to be strong. They say, I will bench 300 pounds by October. They don't say, I want to succeed. They say, I will earn this certification, launch this business, hit this milestone by this date. Their goals are specific, measurable, and time-bound. That's why their effort produces results. That is why their strategy is precise. That is why their actions are intentional. That is why their discipline is consistent. Vague is the enemy of victory, but clarity is the foundation of greatness. A vague goal allows you to lie to yourself. When the goal isn't defined, you can convince yourself you're doing enough. You can convince yourself you're making progress when you're not. You can convince yourself that a trying is the same as achieving. But when your goal is clear, there is no room for excuses. You know exactly how much effort you owe. You know exactly how much work is required. You know when you're giving your best and when you're slacking. Clarity holds you accountable. Vagueness lets you hide. And the reason many people prefer vague goals is because vague goals don't expose them. Vague goals don't force them to confront their habits. Vague goals don't make them face their weaknesses. But vague goals also never lead to transformation. A vague goal produces vague results in relationships too. You can't say you want a better relationship and expect anything to change. What does a better mean? More communication, more time, more compassion, less arguing. Until you define it, the change won't come. The same applies to health, finances, spirituality, career, business, even happiness. You can't measure happy, but you can measure the habits that create happiness. You can't measure a success. But you can measure the milestones that build success. Vagueness is safe, but it is suffocating. Specificity is scary, but it is liberating. When you choose a specific goal, you expose yourself to failure. You expose yourself to responsibility. You expose yourself to discipline. And that's why most people avoid it. But you cannot build a great life while trying to stay comfortable. You cannot build a powerful future while avoiding clarity. The people who achieve their dreams are not the ones who are the most talented. They are the ones who are the most precise. A vague goal produces vague results because your brain is a goal-seeking machine. It needs instructions, and the more detailed the instructions, the better the outcome. If you tell your brain, I want more and more money, it doesn't know what that means. Is $10 more money? Yes. Is $100 more money? Yes. Is $100,000 more money? Yes. And because you didn't define, if your brain gives you whatever random version it can find. But if you say, I want to save $5,000 by December, suddenly your brain knows exactly what you're asking for. It starts scanning for ways to save, to cut, to earn, to plan. The clearer the goal, the smarter your brain becomes. The vaguer the goal, the lazier your brain becomes. That's not a flaw, it's biology. Let's go deeper. A vague goal doesn't activate your emotions. The human mind takes action when the emotions are engaged. Specific goals make you feel something. Saying I want to lose weight doesn't activate emotion. But saying I will drop 20 pounds so I can breathe easier, move faster, feel lighter, and wake up without pain creates an emotional pull. Emotion creates commitment. Commitment creates consistency. Consistency creates results. Vague goals skip all those steps. A vague goal produces vague results because it doesn't align your identity. Humans act according to who they believe they are. When your goal is specific, you start shifting into the identity required to achieve it. You begin to think like that person, behave like that person, prepare like that person. But when your goal is vague, your identity doesn't change. You stay the same because the goal doesn't demand evolution. And without evolution, there can be no transformation. Let me tell you something powerful. The universe does not reward unclear intention. Life does not respond to half decisions. The world moves for people who move with purpose. A vague goal is a whisper. A clear goal is a command. A vague goal is a hope. A clear goal is a declaration. A vague goal asks. A clear goal demands. And life responds differently to demands than it does to wishes. When you set a vague goal, you give yourself permission to drift. When you set a precise goal, you give yourself instructions to rise. Precision is the language of champion. Vagueness is the language of spectator. And you weren't born to be a spectator. So if you want sharper results, you need a sharper vision. If you want a stronger life, you need a stronger target. If you want undeniable progress, you need undeniable clarity. Because a vague goal produces vague results, but a specific goal, spoken with intention, written with conviction, pursued with dedication, produces excellence, transformation, breakthroughs, growth, and victory. And once you taste the results that come from clarity, you will never go back to being vague again. Clarity turns discipline into a habit, and most people never realize how deeply connected those two things are. They think discipline is about waking up early, working harder, forcing yourself to grind even when you don't feel like it. But discipline is not built from pressure, it's built from purpose. When you know exactly what you're chasing, when the vision is sharp, when the mission is clear, discipline stops being a painful act of self-control and becomes a natural expression of who you are becoming. It becomes a rhythm, a way of living, a standard you don't have to fight for because it's aligned with where you're going. Most people struggle with discipline not because they're weak, not because they're lazy, not because they don't have the willpower, because they lack clarity. You cannot be consistent with something you have not clearly defined. You cannot commit to something that isn't specific. The human mind does not activate its full strength towards something vague. When the goal is blurry, the energy is scattered. When the goal is vague, the focus is weak. When the goal is undefined, the discipline collapses the moment discomfort shows up. Discipline feels heavy when your purpose is light. Discipline feels like a burden when your target is unclear. Discipline feels like punishment when you don't know what you're fighting for. That's why so many people start strong and finish weak. They have motivation but no mission. They have energy but no direction. They have desire but no definition. Clarity turns discipline into a habit because clarity eliminates emotional negotiation. When you know exactly what needs to be done and why, you stop waking up every day asking yourself, do I feel like doing this? You stop debating. You stop postponing. You stop overthinking. Clarity removes the option to quit because clarity locks you into a path where discipline becomes the only logical response. Think about it like this. If you tell yourself, I want to get healthy, requires constant negotiation. Every day you have to convince yourself to eat better, exercise, rest, hydrate. Why? Because a healthier is vague. It doesn't have weight. It doesn't paint a picture. It doesn't ignite identity. But if you say, I'm losing 15 pounds in 12 weeks so I can breathe easier, move faster, and stop waking up tired, suddenly discipline becomes connected to something tangible. Suddenly it has a reason. Suddenly it has urgency. Suddenly your brain knows exactly what it's working toward. This clarity is what transforms discipline from something you force into something you follow. It stops being a pull. You're no longer dragging yourself toward the goal. The goal is pulling you toward it. People think discipline is about being strong every day. But in reality, discipline is about building systems that support clarity. When your direction is clear, your habits begin to align with that direction without constant willpower. You wake up earlier because your purpose wakes you up. You work harder because your vision demands it. You say no to distractions not because you're superhuman, but because your clarity makes those distractions irrelevant. Clarity simplifies your life. It removes unnecessary decisions. It cuts out the noise. It reduces stress because you're no longer overwhelmed by too many options. When your goal is clear, your path becomes obvious. And when your path is obvious, your discipline becomes automatic. Most people burn out not because they work too hard, but because they work without direction. They exhaust themselves chasing everything instead of focusing on something. And the more energy you spend on things that don't matter, the less energy you have for the things that do. This is why people say discipline feels impossible. They're trying to force consistency in a life full of confusion. Clarity creates alignment. Alignment creates momentum. Momentum creates habit. Habit creates transformation. And transformation is the final proof of true discipline. People who are clear don't rely on motivation. They rely on alignment. Their actions match their values. Their habits match their goals. Their routines match their vision. When clarity is present, excuses disappear. You can't justify skipping the work when you know exactly what the work leads to. But when your vague excuses feel valid, when you're unclear, your emotions become your boss. You do what feels good, what moves you forward. But when your clarity is strong, your purpose becomes your boss and your emotions take a back seat. Discipline grows stronger when it's not built on force but on identity. When you're clear about who you want to become, every discipline action reinforces that identity. You start telling yourself, this is who I am now. And every time you follow through, you prove that identity true. That's how habits are born. Not from pressure, but But from identity alignment, let's go deeper. Clarity turns discipline into a habit because it removes resistance. Resistance comes from confusion. When you don't know what to do next, when you don't know what matters most, when you don't know what step will create progress. But when clarity is strong, the next step is always obvious. And when the next step is obvious, resistance is weak. When resistance weakens, discipline strengthens. Clarity also gives your brain a reward structure. The mind needs measurable progress. It needs to feel like it's winning. When the goal is vague, you don't know when to celebrate or when to correct. You can't track vague. You can't measure vague. You can't reward vague. But when the goal is specific, every small win becomes fuel. Every step becomes motivation. Every milestone becomes reinforcement. And this reinforcement turns discipline into a habit because the brain begins to crave that consistent progress. People think discipline is all about struggle, but the truth is, discipline grows from satisfaction. When the mind recognizes the connection between effort and achievement, clarity provides that connection. Clarity provides that connection. Vague goals break. Now understand something crucial. Clarity doesn't mean knowing every step. It means knowing the direction. It means knowing the purpose. It means knowing the outcome. Discipline doesn't grow from perfect plans. It grows from precise intention. You don't have to know how you're going to reach the mountain. You just have to know which mountain you're climbing. Once you choose the mountain, your legs start moving. Once you choose the mission, your habits align. Once you choose the vision, the discipline follows. Clarity also changes the way you perceive obstacles. Without clarity, every challenge feels like a sign to stop. Every setback feels like failure. Every difficulty feels like proof that you aren't capable. But when clarity is strong, obstacles become part of the assignment. You interpret challenges differently because you know where you're going. You see resistance as growth instead of rejection. You see setbacks as redirection instead of destruction. And this shift in perception makes your discipline stronger than your adversity. Clarity also changes the people around you. When you are unclear, anyone can influence you. Anyone can distract you. Anyone can detour you. But when you are clear, only the aligned stay. Your environment becomes supportive. Your relationships become sharper. Your conversations become intentional. Your circle begins to match your direction. And when your environment supports your vision, discipline becomes effortless. People underestimate how much clarity impacts self-control. Self-control is not about fighting temptation. It's about reducing the number of temptations in your environment. Clarity filters your environment. Clarity filters your decision. Clarity filters your habits. Clarity filters your life. When you're clear, everything becomes easier. Not because life gets easier, but because your path gets narrower. Discipline thrives in narrow paths, not wide ones. When you're trying to live a life with too many choices, too many possibilities, too many directions, too many distractions, discipline becomes a constant battle. But when clarity narrows your focus, discipline becomes your natural state. Clarity converts effort into direction. Direction converts direction into routine. Routine converts routine into habit. Habit converts habit into identity. And identity converts identity into destiny. Discipline is not something extraordinary people are born with. It is something ordinary people build when they become extraordinarily clear about what they want. Clarity is the seed. Discipline is the tree. Habit is the fruit. Transformation is the harvest. And once clarity takes root in your life, discipline becomes as natural as breathing. You don't force it. You don't fight it. You don't negotiate with it. You simply live. You simply live. Clarity eliminates distractions, and most people don't understand how powerful that simple truth is. They think distraction is just a matter of weak focus, low discipline, or a wandering mind. But distraction isn't the enemy. What lack of clarity is. When you don't know exactly where you're going, everything looks like an opportunity, everything feels important, everything pulls at you. You become open to anything because you're committed to nothing. And when you're open to everything, you get lost in the noise of life instead of the direction of your purpose. People say they can't stay focused, but the problem isn't focus. It's the absence of a clear destination. You can't stay focused when nothing is pulling you forward. You can't stay away from distractions when you haven't chosen a mission worth avoiding them for. The truth is simple. When your vision is blurry, your decisions become scattered, your time becomes misplaced, and your energy becomes divided. Distractions thrive in the gaps left by unclear intentions. Think about it. If you're driving to a city you've never heard of with no map, no GPS, no directions, any turn looks like it might be the right turn. You'll keep stopping, guessing, turning around, checking, doubting yourself. Not because you're incapable of driving, but because you don't know the destination. But if you're driving to a place you know intimately, you don't stop for every sign, every exit, every possibility. You keep your eyes forward. Why? Because clarity of destination eliminates confusion along the journey. Life works the same way. When you know exactly who you want to become and what you want to achieve, distractions lose their power. They can't tempt you because they don't align with your direction. They can't slow you down because your vision is moving faster than your emotion. They can't pull you away because you've already pulled yourself towards something greater. But when you lack clarity, small things become big obstacles. Minor setbacks become major disruptions. Simple temptations become life detours. You give attention that don't push you forward. You invest energy into relationships that drain instead of fuel you. You spend hours scrolling, talking, worrying, doubting, because your mind doesn't have a mission, so it wanders. A wandering mind attracts distractions like a magnet. Clarity shuts the door. Clarity gives your mind some place to live instead of some place to escape to. It gives your heart something to protect instead of something to chase. It gives your days a direction instead of a default. People underestimate how much of their life they lose to distraction. Not because they're incapable of focus, but because they never sat down long enough to decide what deserves their focus. When clarity is strong, everything that doesn't align becomes easy to dismiss. Not because you're cold, not because you're harsh, not because you're antisocial, but because you value your purpose too much to let anything dilute it. Clarity creates boundaries. And once those boundaries are in place, distractions cannot cross them because you don't give them permission to. Let me go deeper. Distraction is not just scrolling on your phone or wasting time watching videos or talking to the wrong people. Distractions come in many forms. Opportunities that don't match your purpose. People who don't match your future. Emotions that don't match your direction. Habits that don't match your identity. But when clarity is missing, all of these things look harmless. They even look attractive. They look exciting. They might even look productive. That is how distraction works. It doesn't always look like time wasting. Sometimes it looks like a good idea at the wrong time. Sometimes it looks like a good opportunity that leads to nowhere. Sometimes it looks like a relationship that feels good but costs you your growth. Clarity exposes these things. Clarity shines a light on the difference between what's helpful and what's harmful. Clarity forces you to choose alignment over entertainment, purpose over pleasure, growth over comfort. People say, I'm too distracted, but the truth is, the distraction only has power because your vision has no anchor. The moment you anchor your purpose, distractions lose their grip. You stop entertaining things you once chased. You stop worrying about things you once valued. Stop worrying about things you once valued. You stop wasting time on things that once felt important. Clarity eliminates distractions because it prioritizes your energy, and energy is everything. Where your energy goes, your life grows. If your energy is divided, your growth is divided. If your energy is scattered, your progress is scattered. If your energy is wasted, your potential is wasted. Clarity concentrates your energy into a laser instead of a flashlight. A flashlight lights up everything but burns nothing. A laser burns through anything because its focus is concentrated. That is what clarity does to your life. Burns through obstacles, excuses, and distractions with precision. People don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they lack focus. They don't lack ability. They lack direction. They don't lack ambition. They lack alignment. You can have all the energy in the world, but if you're not aiming it in one direction, you'll never see the result you want. Clarity doesn't just eliminate distraction. It eliminates confusion. And confusion is one of the biggest enemies of progress. Confusion makes you hesitate. Hesitation creates inconsistency. Inconsistency kills momentum. And without momentum, even the most motivated person will eventually give up. But clarity removes confusion because you're not guessing anymore. You're not wondering. You're not trying to figure out what matters. You already know. And once you know what matters, everything else becomes noise. The world will always offer you noise. Social media, opinions, negativity, drama, options, temptation. The noise never stops. But clarity teaches you to turn the volume down. Clarity teaches you to hear only what aligns with your vision. Clarity teaches you to stop responding to everything that calls your name. Your purpose doesn't need the world's attention. It needs your attention. Your purpose doesn't need your excuses. It needs your commitment. Your purpose doesn't need your distraction. It needs your decision. Clarity is that decision. Clarity also changes the way you see yourself. When you're unclear, you underestimate your value because you don't have a defined path. You compare yourself to everyone else because you haven't identified your own lane. But when clarity is present, comparison fades. You stop looking left and right because you're locked in on forward. You stop worrying about who's ahead of you because you're finally running your own race. You stop getting distracted by other people's success because you've defined your own definition of success. Clarity eliminates distraction not by removing external noise, but by strengthening internal direction. When your inner compass is strong, the outer world cannot pull you off track. And understand this, distractions don't disappear, they just lose power. The same temptations will still exist. The same shortcuts will still show up. The same people will still try to pull you off path. The world won't change, but you will. And that inner change is what eliminates distractions, not absence, but irrelevance. Clarity makes distractions irrelevant. Once you know what you're building, who you're becoming, and where you're going, everything that doesn't support that mission becomes background noise. And you no longer waste your breath, your time, your energy, or your life on background noise. Clarity is not just a tool, it's protection. It shields your mind, it shields your focus, it shields your dreams, it shields your future. Because when you're clear, purpose is louder than temptation. Vision is stronger than distraction. Destiny is greater than detour. And once you reach that level of clarity, distractions don't slow you down. They simply no longer exist in your world. When you hear the idea that you need a vision, not just motivation, it might sound simple on the surface, but it's the foundation of everything extraordinary you will ever achieve in your life. Motivation is an emotion, a feeling, a temporary spark that can be ignited by a video, a speech, a song, or a moment of inspiration. But a vision, listen carefully, a vision is a long-term blueprint. A vision is an internal compass. A vision is your life's map, your structural plan, your personal GPS destined to take you from where you are to exactly where you want to be. Most people wake up motivated but remain unfulfilled because motivation is not the problem. Direction is. You can have all the energy in the world, but if you don't know where that energy is supposed to go, it won't matter. It will scare, it will leak, it will fade. Motivation is like gasoline poured on a fire. It burns bright, fast, and loud. But a vision is the slow, steady flame that keeps burning even when the wind is blowing hard against you. That's why people fail. Not because they lack motivation, but because they lack clarity about where they're going. Think about how many times you felt pumped up, ready to take on the world. You said, if this is it, I'm changing my life today. And then one bad day, one distraction, one disappointment, one negative comment, or one moment of self-doubt was enough to completely knock you off your path. Why? Because you didn't have a vision. I have a vision to anchor you. You were floating, not building. A motivated person without a vision is like someone running full speed in the wrong direction, fast, enthusiastic, but lost. That's why some people work hard every day but still feel stuck. They confuse movement with progress. They confuse activity with direction. They confuse motivation with purpose. Motivation can wake you up early in the morning, but only vision can keep you awake at night, planning, building, dreaming, and preparing. Motivation can get you started, but only vision can keep you going when you're tired, when you're discouraged, when you're disappointed, when you're confused, and when life hits you with something you didn't expect. Vision gives meaning to the struggle. Vision gives weight to the work. Vision gives power to your persistence. Motivation lasts minutes, maybe hours, but vision can carry you through years. Vision is what makes champions train when no one is watching. Vision is what makes entrepreneurs keep going after 10 failures. Vision is what makes a single parent work 2 jobs because they see a better future for their kids. Vision is what makes a student study deep into the night because they see a career beyond the textbooks. Vision is what makes creative people perfect their craft, even when nobody pays attention. Vision is what keeps leaders steady when everything around them looks unstable. Vision is what makes a human being rise even after they fall. The reason motivation isn't enough is because motivation depends on feelings change. Some days you're excited. Some days you're excited. Some days you're not. Some days you believe in yourself. Some days you question everything. Some days life is smooth. Some days life is chaos. If your life plan depends on motivation, then your life plan depends on your mood. And that's a dangerous place to be. But if your path depends on vision, then your life plan depends on your future, not your feelings. Vision doesn't care if you're tired. Vision doesn't care if you're scared. Vision doesn't care if the world is against you. Vision said, get up. We still have work to do. A true vision becomes part of your identity. It becomes who you are and what you stand for. It becomes the reason you say a no to temptations, shortcuts, and distractions. It becomes the reason you stay consistent, even when progress feels slow. Motivation makes you excited to try. Vision makes you committed to continue. Without vision, your days feel long, your progress feels small, and your effort feels meaningless. But when you have a clear vision, every step, no matter how small, feels like movement towards something meaningful. You suddenly stop comparing yourself to others because you're no longer competing with people around you. You're competing with the future version of yourself. You start making decisions based not on your cravings, but on your calling. You start valuing time because you understand that every minute either moves you closer to your vision or farther away from it. Vision forces you to grow. It demands evolution. It requires transformation. When you have a vision, you can't stay the same. You can't keep the same habits, the same attitudes, the same thinking patterns, or the same environment. Vision requires newness, new beliefs, new behaviors, new directions, new courage. Vision stretches you. Vision breaks you out of your comfort zone. Vision forces you to walk into rooms you never thought you belonged in. Vision pushes you to acquire skills you never imagined you would need. Vision is not comfortable. It is constructive. Motivation is emotional. Vision is structural. Motivation is loud. Vision is quiet, but relentless. Motivation changes your day. Vision changes your life. That's why some people spend their whole lives consuming motivational content, but never accomplish anything meaningful. They are inspired, but not directed. You don't need more hype. You need more clarity. You don't need more noise. You need a blueprint. You don't need more motivation. You need a mission. A true vision is born from introspection, honesty, and purpose. It comes from asking yourself the right questions. Who do I want to become? What impact do I want to make? What kind of life do I want to live? What legacy do I want to leave? What do I value most? What am I willing to fight for? What am I willing to sacrifice for? What am I willing to master? When you begin answering these questions, your vision begins to take shape, not just as a dream, but as a direction. Once you have a vision, motivation becomes secondary. You don't rely on motivation. You rely on discipline, clarity, and consistency. You don't wait to feel like working. You work because the vision demands it. You don't stop when it's hard. You push because your future depends on it. You don't quit when people doubt you. You keep going because your vision is louder than their voices. When you have vision, you no longer live to avoid discomfort. You live to create your future. And here's the truth. Vision gives your life meaning, structure, purpose, and momentum. Vision shapes your habits. Vision guides your time. Vision directs your energy. Vision protects your peace. Vision strengthens your resilience. Vision sharpens your focus. Vision gives your life a backbone. Without vision, you wander. With vision, you walk with intention. Without vision, you chase everything. With vision, you chase what matters. Without vision, you feel empty. With vision, you feel alive. You don't need to be the strongest. You don't need to be the smartest. You don't need to be the most talented. You just need a powerful vision and the courage to commit to it every single day. Because once you know where you're going, even the slowest steps will still take you there. That's why you need a vision, not just motivation. Motivation can lift your spirit, but vision will build your destiny. Motivation can excite you, but vision will evolve you. Motivation can make you move, but vision will make you unstoppable. You are not missing energy. You are missing clarity. And the moment you define your vision, your entire life will rise to meet it. Writing the dream down to bring it to life is one of the most powerful things a human being can do. Yet most people underestimate it because it seems too simple. They think writing is passive, that it's just ink on paper, that it's just words. But it's not just words, it's direction, it's direction. It's commitment. When you take a dream out of your mind and put it onto paper, you are shifting it from imagination to intention, from hope to plan, from possibility to responsibility. A written dream is no longer just something you think about. It becomes something you are accountable for. It becomes a contract with your future self. The moment you write it down, you are declaring to yourself, to your mind, and to the universe that this dream matters, that it deserves attention, and that you are willing to do the work required to make it real. Most people leave their dream floating in their minds, and that's why they never become reality. The mind is a busy place. It is full of thoughts, fears, doubts, memories, fantasies, worries, and noise. When a dream stays in your head, it competes with everything else. Your insecurities, your distractions, your responsibility, and your fears. But when you write it down, you take it out of the chaotic environment of your mind and place it somewhere clear, stable, visible, and grounded. Writing is how you separate your dream from the clutter. It's how you say, this is not just another thought. This is a direction. Writing your dream creates clarity, and clarity creates power. When you write something, you define it, you shape it, you sharpen it, you specify it. A vague dream cannot be built. A blurry vision cannot be followed. A dream that is not written cannot grow. But once you write it, you can see it. You can adjust it. You can measure it. You can plan for it. You can pursue it. Think about architects. They never build based on imagination alone. They use blueprints. They draw. They plan. They write down every measurement, every angle, every material, every structure. Without those written details, nothing is built accurately. Your life works the same way. Your dream is the building, writing it is the blueprint. Trying to build without writing is like trying to construct a skyscraper from memory. You will fail. Not because the vision is impossible, but because you never documented it. Once you write the dream down, something powerful happens. Your mind begins working differently. Your subconscious starts scanning for opportunities that align with what you wrote. You start noticing things you never noticed before. You start aligning your decisions with the dream, even without thinking about it. Writing activates awareness. Writing activates intention. Writing activates internal focus. A written dream also helps you organize your energy. When you write the dream down, you immediately start breaking it into smaller pieces. Steps, goals, action, habits. You begin to understand that big dreams require small, consistent movements. You realize that massive achievements come from daily discipline. You start seeing that success is not one giant leap, but thousands of intentional steps. And writing gives you a place to map those steps. It becomes your workshop, your planning table, your strategy lab. Writing your dream also turns emotion into commitment. There is a difference between wanting something and being committed to something. Wanting is emotional. Commitment is strategic. When you write your dream, you shift from emotion to execution. You tell yourself, this is not just something I want to feel. This is something I want to build. Feelings change. Commitment doesn't. Writing locks in the commitment. Another thing writing does, it protects your dream from being forgotten or diluted. Human memory fades. Life gets busy. Distractions multiply, responsibilities grow, people pull you in different directions. But when your dream is written down, it becomes a reference point. You can return to it when you're tired, when you're confused, when you're discouraged, when you're distracted. It becomes your anchor. It keeps you rooted in your purpose. Writing also increases accountability. When a dream stays in your mind, you can change it whenever things get hard. You can ignore it, you can shrink it. You can abandon it without feeling guilty because nothing was ever declared. But when you write it down, you create a physical reminder that you cannot escape. You can't lie to yourself as easily. You can't pretend you forgot. You can't pretend the dream was never real. The paper becomes your witness. It becomes the evidence of your intention. A written dream becomes measurable. When you write it, you can track progress. You can see where you are, where you're going, and how far you've come. This tracking fuels motivation. It gives you momentum. It keeps you disciplined because you see progress. And progress, even small progress, one of the greatest motivators on earth. When you see yourself moving, you want to keep moving. Writing also strengthens belief. There is something psychological that happens when you see your own handwriting declared, something bold. It builds inner confidence. It builds trust in yourself. When you write your dream, you are telling your brain that this is real. This is mine. This is possible. That written statement becomes a seed planted in your consciousness, and seeds grow when they are nurtured. But writing is only the first step. Once you write the dream, you must turn it into a plan. A plan turns dreams into schedules and habits. A plan turns the future into a daily routine. Anyone can write a sentence about their dream, but not everyone can turn that sentence into steps. When you break your dream into daily actions, you turn it into a lifestyle. And lifestyle is where transformation happens. A dream written down becomes a plan. A plan practiced daily becomes a habit. A habit performed consistently becomes a lifestyle. A lifestyle aligned with your dream becomes your reality. This is how writing brings your dream to life. Writing also gives you permission to dream big. When you write one dream down and begin working toward it, you realize you are capable of more than you thought. You begin to expand. You develop confidence through action. You start setting higher goals. You start believing in your potential. Writing builds the muscle of imagination and the discipline of execution. The more you write, the more you dream. The more you dream, the more you grow. Writing also prepares you for adversity. Every dream will face resistance. Every goal will encounter obstacles. Every step forward will include setbacks. But when your dream is written, you have something to return to during the storms. The written dream reminds you why you started. It reminds you what you're fighting for. It reminds you what your future could look like if you don't quit. It becomes your emotional shelter and your mental compass. Writing also inspires gratitude. When you look back at what you wrote months or years ago and see how far you've come, you begin to appreciate your journey. You see growth. You see progress. You see change. You see strength. And gratitude fuels even more progress because a grateful heart becomes an ambitious heart. There is another secret. When you write your dream down, you invite others to understand and support your vision. People can stand with you only when they know where you're going. A written dream allows you to communicate your purpose clearly to mentors, partners, friends, and supporters. It aligns your community. It builds a network of accountability and encouragement. It helps you attract the right people and distance yourself from the wrong ones. Writing your dream builds alignment not just within yourself, but around yourself. Writing also brings order to chaos. When life becomes overwhelming, writing helps you organize thoughts, feelings, plans, and problems. It brings structure to confusion. It brings stability to stress. It brings clarity to clutter. Writing is a powerful mental reset. It gives you the ability to step back, analyze, reflect, and reorganize your direction. When you write your dream, you give your future a voice. You give your inner self a platform. You give your potential a place to live. You give your purpose a form. Writing is not a small act. It is a transformational one. You don't need special notebooks. You don't need perfect words. You don't need fancy journals. You just need honesty, intention, and consistency. Write the dream down. Write the plan. Write the steps. Write the progress. Write the lesson. Write the failures. Write the victories. Write the journey. Because a dream in your head is a possibility, but a dream on paper is a future under construction. Writing is how you take ownership of your destiny and begin building the life you were designed to live. When you surround yourself with things and people that align with your vision, you create an environment that supports your growth instead of sabotaging you. Most people don't fail because they lack talent, desire, or opportunity. They fail because their environment is working against them. They are trying to rise while everything around them is pulling them down. They are trying to focus while their surroundings are filled with noise. They are trying to grow while living in spaces that keep them small. Your environment is not just where you live. It's who you talk to, what you watch, what you listen to, what you consume, what you tolerate, what you allow into your mind. When your environment is misaligned with your vision, you will always feel stuck, confused, and unfulfilled. But when your environment supports your dream, chasing that dream becomes natural, not forced. Your environment influences your energy. If you spend your days around people who complain, gossip, doubt themselves, or settle for mediocrity, you will eventually start mirroring those behaviors. You may not even realize it happening. Negativity is contagious. Laziness is contagious. Fear is contagious. And the wrong environment will slowly drain your fire until you stop believing in yourself. You become the average of the voices you listen to most. If those voices are filled with excuses, you will adopt excuses. If those voices are filled with distractions, you will become distracted. If those voices are filled with comfort, you will settle. But when you surround yourself with driven, disciplined, focused, and visionary people, you rise to meet their energy. Excellence is also contagious. Growth is contagious. Discipline is contagious. Being surrounded by people who are leveling up pushes you to level up. Your environment shapes your habits. You cannot build powerful habits in a weak environment. You can't build consistency in a place full of chaos. You can't build confidence in a place full of criticism. You can't build productivity in a space that overwhelms you. Your habits reflect your surroundings. If your environment is full of clutter, your mind becomes cluttered. If your environment lacks structure, your habits lack discipline. If your environment is full of distractions, your time will be wasted. But when your environment is clean, organized, peaceful, and supportive, your habits become easier to practice. Waking up early becomes easier. Working becomes easier. Studying becomes easier. Creating becomes easier. Your environment either helps your habits or fights against them. Your environment protects your clarity or destroys it. When you are surrounded by people who criticize your dreams, question your ambitions, or tell you to be realistic, your clarity gets clouded. You begin to doubt yourself. You begin to shrink your goals to match their comfort zone. You begin to wonder whether your dream is too big. This is how dreams die. Not from lack of effort, but from lack of environmental support. A negative environment makes even strong people weak. A positive environment makes even average people extraordinary. When you surround yourself with people who believe in you, challenge you, support you, and remind you of who you are, your clarity strengthens. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop apologizing for wanting more. You stop shrinking your vision. Your environment also shapes your discipline. If everyone around you procrastinates, you'll start procrastinating. If everyone around you wastes time, you'll start wasting time. If everyone around you is inconsistent, you'll adopt inconsistency as normal. But when you're surrounded by people who push themselves, who work, who grind, who show up even when they don't feel like it, you naturally rise. You don't want to be the weakest link in the room. You don't want to be the only one not growing. An environment full of disciplined individuals naturally forces you to elevate your discipline. Your environment influences your decision. Your decisions shape your life. When your environment supports your values and your goals, you make decisions aligned with who you want to become. You choose wisely. You choose intentionally. You choose with clarity, not confusion. But when your environment is misaligned, your decisions become emotional, impulsive, or pressure. You make choices based on other people's opinions, not your own vision. You make choices based on comfort instead of purpose. This is how people drift away from their destiny, not through one big decision, but through thousands of small decisions shaped by a toxic environment. Your environment affects your mental health. Stress, anxiety, fear, self-doubt, and confusion often grow in environments that are negative, chaotic, or unsupportive. You cannot thrive mentally if you're surrounded by constant emotional noise. You can't develop confidence if you're surrounded by people who belittle you. You can't develop peace if you live in constant conflict. You can't develop self-respect if you tolerate disrespect. A healthy environment brings emotional stability, gives you room to breathe, think, reflect, and grow. It gives you mental clarity and emotional space to evolve. Your environment determines your focus. You cannot concentrate if you're surrounded by distractions. You cannot dream if you're surrounded by noise. You cannot strategize if you're surrounded by drama. Focus requires quiet spaces, physical and mental. If your environment constantly interrupts your focus, you will never master your skills. But when you build an environment that protects your focus, you become unstoppable. You begin accomplishing tasks faster. You begin learning deeper. You begin producing better. You begin building momentum. Your environment shapes the vision you believe you can achieve. If everyone around you is dreaming small, you will feel guilty for dreaming big. If everyone around you fears risk, you will learn to fear it too. If everyone around you settles, you will think settling is normal. But if everyone around you aims high, you naturally aim higher. If everyone around you is evolving, you feel inspired to evolve. A high-level environment expands your belief in what is possible. It stretches your thinking. It elevates your expectations. It pushes your limits. Your environment determines the size of your dreams. Your environment reveals your standards. What you tolerate in your environment becomes a reflection of what you accept in yourself. If you tolerate disrespect, you weaken your self-worth. If you tolerate laziness, you weaken your work ethic. If you tolerate negativity, you weaken your positivity. If you tolerate chaos, you weaken your order. But when you demand excellence from your environment, you demand excellence from yourself. When you raise your external standards, your internal standards rise automatically. Your environment affects your long-term destiny. Every major turning point in life begins with a shift in environment. When people outgrow their current surroundings, they must step into new environments that match their next level. Staying in the wrong environment traps you in cycles you were meant to outgrow. Moving into the right environment unlocks opportunities, ideas, relationships, and growth that were never available before. Most breakthroughs happen not because you suddenly became more talented, but because you finally placed yourself in an environment that allowed your talent to flourish. Your environment is a silent teacher. It teaches you what to value, what to fear, what to pursue, what to avoid, what to tolerate, and what to expect. A negative environment teaches limitation. A positive environment teaches possibilities. A toxic environment teaches survival. A supportive environment teaches growth. Your environment is constantly shaping you, even when you don't realize it. This is why you must intentionally build an environment that matches your vision. Clean your physical space. Remove people who drain you. Distance yourself from negativity. Limit distractions. Surround yourself with growth-minded individuals. Fill your environment with reminders of your goals. If you want to improve your health, fill your kitchen with healthy options. If you want to study more, create a quiet study space. If you want to grow your business, surround yourself with entrepreneurs. If you want to be disciplined, surround yourself with disciplined individuals. You must design an environment that reflects the future you want, not the past you came from. Your environment should challenge you, not comfort you. Comfort keeps you the same. Growth requires discomfort. Surround yourself with people who challenge your thinking, push your limits, and hold you accountable. Surround yourself with people who inspire you to increase your standards, not lower them. Surround yourself with people who speak life into your dreams instead of death. And most importantly, recognize that your environment is a choice. You may not control where you start, but you control where you stay. You control who you listen to. You control who you spend time with. You control what you consume. You control what you tolerate. You control what you build around yourself. When you intentionally surround yourself with things, habits, and people that align with your vision, you create an environment that pulls you forward instead of holding you back. You build a world that supports your dreams instead of suffocating them. You can create space where your vision can grow, your potential can expand, and your life can transform. Because the truth is simple. The right environment will elevate you. The wrong environment will erase you. Your future depends on which one you choose. Most people never reach the life they dream about because they never take the responsibility to own their decisions, their habits, their excuses, and their outcomes. They keep pointing at everything outside of themselves. Circumstances, parents, environment, money, timing, fear. But they never point at the one thing that has been present in every single chapter of their lives, themselves. And until you get to a place where you look in the mirror and say, I am the common denominator of my results, you will keep repeating the same cycles, living the same struggles, and experiencing the same setbacks year after year. Responsibility is not punishment. Responsibility is empowerment. When you take full ownership, you take back control. When you take ownership, you remove the limitations. When you take ownership, you open the door to grow. But as long as you keep blaming, you stay stuck. You stay small. You stay confused. You stay in the same level of life because responsibility is the key that unlocks clarity, and clarity is the key that unlocks movement. There are people with more talent than you, more education than you, more opportunities than you, and still they are not moving. Why? Because talent without responsibility is wasted. Opportunity without responsibility is wasted. A blessing without responsibility becomes a burden. And the truth is, we live in a world where it's easier to blame than to own. It's easier to say, they didn't support me than to admit I didn't follow through. It's easier to say I didn't get the chance than to say I didn't prepare. It's easier to say people are unfair than to say I didn't discipline myself. You cannot keep giving away your power like that. You cannot keep handing the steering wheel of your life to other people, to circumstances, to fear. You have to stand up and say, my life is my responsibility. My success is my responsibility. My growth is my responsibility. My craft, my discipline, mine not. Because the moment you embrace the truth that you are responsible, your life stops being random and starts being intentional. When you take responsibility, you stop waiting. You stop procrastinating. You stop living in the mindset of a someday. You stop waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity, the perfect support system, the perfect conditions. You stop looking for external permission. Responsibility forces you to act right now with whatever you have, wherever you are, with whoever is willing to walk with you, or even if no one walks with you at all. Responsibility makes you resourceful because when you know it depends on you, you find solutions. When you know it depends on you, you stop complaining and start creating. When you know it depends on you, you stop hoping and start building. People who take responsibility don't wait for doors to open. They build doors that open. They build doors, they carve paths. They push walls. They turn obstacles into stepping stones. And even when they fail, they don't collapse into excuses. They study the failure. They own the mistake. They evolve. And they rise stronger. But let me be real with you. Responsibility is uncomfortable. It forces you to confront the truth about your habits, your mindset, your discipline, your environment, your effort. It forces you to admit that you didn't always give your best, that you quit before the finish line, that you let fear lead you, that you let distractions win, that you let comfort steal your potential. Responsibility is not easy because it requires honesty, and honesty is painful. But that pain is the birthplace of transformation. That pain creates the hunger that changes your life. When you start owning every decision, every action, every opportunity you ignored, every hour you wasted, every goal you abandoned, you begin to rebuild yourself from the inside out. You develop discipline, you develop resilience, you develop clarity, and that clarity becomes direction. Responsibility gives you access to self-awareness. You start recognizing the unhealthy habits that have been holding you back. Scrolling for hours, sleeping late, avoiding challenges, entertaining toxic people, feeding your fears more than your dreams. Responsibility makes you confront your contradiction. You say you want success, but your actions are aligned with comfort. You say you want growth, but your habits are aligned with stagnation. You say you want clarity, but your choices are aligned with confusion. When you take responsibility, you stop lying to yourself. You stop pretending. You stop just talking about change and start living the change. The moment you take ownership, your excuses start sounding weak and your goals start sounding urgent. You no longer tolerate the old version of yourself because you know exactly what that old version has cost you in life. And this is the part people don't understand. Responsibility doesn't make your life harder. It makes your life simpler. When you know you are responsible, decision-making becomes easier because the question becomes clear. Does this move me toward or away from my purpose? Does this elevate me or distract me? Does this help me grow or keep me stagnant? Responsibility filters out the noise. It eliminates the unnecessary. It frees you from the guilt of always waiting for someone else to save you. It frees you from the confusion of not knowing what to do next. Responsibility brings clarity because it forces you to make intentional choices. It forces you to prioritize what matters and eliminate what doesn't. It forces you to cut the excuses, the procrastination, the self-sabotage, all because you now understand that the quality of your life depends on the quality of your choices. And yes, taking responsibility means accepting that the life you want will require sacrifices. It will require waking up earlier, working harder, focusing deeper, saying no more often, stepping out of comfort more consistently. It means losing some friends, losing some habits, losing some old versions of yourself. But responsibility gives you the confidence that every sacrifice has a return. Every discipline has a reward. Every effort has a purpose. When you own your path, you stop fearing challenges because you know challenges don't break responsible people, they sharpen them. Responsibility turns pressure into fuel. It turns doubt into determination, turns setbacks into education. Responsibility makes you unstoppable because it removes the option of quitting. When you know you are responsible for the outcome, quitting is no longer a strategy. It becomes unacceptable. It means you to stop waiting for clarity to magically appear. Clarity does not come from wishing. Clarity does not come from scrolling. Clarity does not come from complaining. Clarity comes from movement, and movement comes from responsibility. When you take ownership of your life, you begin to take action. When you take action, you begin to learn. When you learn, you begin to understand. And understanding is what produces clarity. So, if you feel lost right now, if you feel stuck right now, if you feel like you are not where you want to be, I need you to ask yourself one question with complete honesty. Well, have I truly taken responsibility for my life? Because the moment you do, everything changes. Take responsibility for your mindset. Take responsibility for your discipline. Take responsibility for your choice. Take responsibility for how you spend your time, who you spend it with, what you allow in your environment, what you tolerate, what you stop outsourcing your power. Stop handing over your future to excuses. Stop waiting for someone else to fix what only you can fix. You are capable. You are powerful. You are equipped. But you must own every part of your life because clarity does not come to the passive. Clarity comes to the response. And the day you decide that your future depends on you and only you is the day your path becomes clear, your purpose becomes visible, and your life starts moving in the direction you were meant to go. And now we come to the moment where everything we talked about, everything we broke down, everything we exposed must turn into a decision. Because at the end of the day, speeches don't change lives, decisions do. You can listen to motivation for hours, you can take notes, you can highlight sentences, but until something inside of you shifts, until you reach that point where you refuse to live another day in confusion, doubt, fear, and half effort, nothing changes. You don't need more inspiration. You need transformation. And transformation only begins when you say, I'm done living below my potential. I'm done living unclear. I'm done waiting. I'm done blaming. I'm done blaming. I'm done drifting. This is my life and I'm taking it back. You are not where you want to be because you lack clarity. But now you know what clarity requires. It requires responsibility. It requires honesty. It requires discipline. It requires courage. It requires shutting down the noise and tuning into what truly matters. It requires choosing purpose over comfort, growth over excuses, accountability over blame. Clarity is not something that comes to the lucky. Clarity is earned by the committed. And if you want to change your life, you must become committed to the version of yourself you have not even met yet. You must believe in the future you so deeply that you start moving differently today. There comes a moment when you realize that confusion is not a condition, it's a choice. Drifting is not a destiny, it's a habit. Excuses are not reasons, they're delays. And when you understand this, you stop negotiating with your weaknesses. You stop giving your fears the final say. You stop letting your circumstances define you. You stop waiting for the perfect day, the perfect support, the perfect alignment. You understand that clarity grows the moment you start moving, the moment you start deciding, the moment you take ownership. You can't keep repeating the same patterns and expecting a different result. You can't keep asking for clarity while making choices that lead to confusion. You can't keep dreaming about the future while living with yesterday's habits. At some point, you must confront the version of yourself that has kept you stuck. The one who procrastinates, who avoids hard things, who hides behind fear, who waits for permission, who entertains distractions, who doubts their own potential. And when you confront that version, You must replace it with the person you are capable of being. The focused one, the disciplined one. The consistent one, the decisive one, the one who takes responsibility for everything. The truth is, you were never lacking potential. You were never lacking ability. You were never lacking work. What you lacked was direction. What you lacked was clarity. And now you have the blueprint. Clarity is built, not found. Clarity is created, not gifted. Clarity is a result of ownership, not luck. When you take responsibility for your actions, your habits, your decisions, your focus, you stop feeling lost because now you're in the driver's seat. When you take responsibility for where you are, you gain the power to change where you're going. There is a version of your life waiting for you that requires clarity, a version of your future that is powerful, intentional, disciplined, meaningful, a version of you who wakes up with direction, not confusion, a version of you who acts with confidence, not hesitation, a version of you who knows exactly what they want and moves like it every single day. That version of you is not a myth. It is a choice, a decision, a commitment, and can step into that version starting today. But here's the thing. Play is the thing. Clarity will cost you. It will cost you your excuses. It will cost you your comfort zone. It will cost you some friendships. It will cost you time and energy. It will cost you the luxury of blaming others. It will cost you the identity of who you used to be. But what you gain in return is priceless. You gain direction. You gain purpose. You gain momentum. You gain confidence. You gain control of your life. You gain a future that actually aligns with your potential. This is your moment to shift, to step out of a life of undecidedness and step into a life of intention, to stop living accidentally and start living deliberately. You are not destined to repeat the same cycles. You are designed to break them. You are not created to stay confused. You are created to grow, to learn, to focus, to build. You are not meant to stay where you are. You are meant to rise. But rising requires clarity, and clarity requires responsibility. So I want you to ask yourself, right here, right now, what am I willing to take responsibility for today? Not tomorrow, not next week, not someday. Today, your future depends on that decision. Everything you want, the life, the success, the peace, the progress, the financial freedom, the purpose, begins the moment you take responsibility. The moment you stop pointing outward and stop looking inward. The moment you say, if it is up to me, it's up to me. And when you make that decision, something powerful shifts. Confusion begins to fade. Purpose begins to rise. The fog begins to lift. You start seeing what you need to do. You start understanding why you've been stuck. You start recognizing the patterns you must break. You start noticing the opportunities that were always there, but you were too distracted to see. That's the magic of responsibility. It sharpens your vision. It widens your awareness. It awakens your potential. But remember, clarity is not a one-time event. It is a daily commitment. Just like you shower daily, you must align daily. Just like you eat daily, you must refocus daily. Just like you breathe daily, you must choose responsibility daily. Because clarity fades when your discipline fades. Clarity disappears when your habits weaken. Clarity gets lost when you stop being intentional. So you must protect your clarity like it's your most valuable asset, because it is. Without clarity, you wander. With clarity, you win. Today, I want you to walk away with one unshakable truth. You are not powerless. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are simply one decision away from a completely different life. And that decision is responsibility. That decision is ownership. That decision is clarity. It's time to stop hoping and stop wishing and start wishing and start working. Stop drifting and start directing. You have everything inside you to create the life you dream of, but you must become the person that life requires. And that starts right now with you choosing clarity over confusion, responsibility over excusing, focus over distraction, purpose over comfort. Your future self is waiting. Your purpose is waiting. Your breakthrough is waiting. Step into clarity. Step into responsibility. Step into the highest version of yourself. This is a moment taken.